Quasi here, and in this video, I'm going to share with you how to really focus, eliminate procrastination, and really what the biggest reason is why nowadays it is so difficult to get your mind fully on board to doing 100% the thing you want to do, and really how this concept of a dopamine detox comes into play, and how this will probably be the most effective thing that you can do for your life. By the end of this video, you're going to learn the 3 keys that have helped me personally create a sustainable lifestyle where I can just focus like this on any single task that I put my mind to. Okay, so make sure you stick around to the very end of this video because this is truly going to change your life. Before I begin this video, I want to quickly announce that a couple of spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery program. Make sure you wait around till the end of the video for the announcement on that. And with that, let's get started. So today I want to talk to you about focusing and eliminating procrastination, and really why it's so difficult nowadays, with the advent of Amazon Prime, with all the social media around us, with all the pornography, with all the stimulants and everything around us that quickly gets us distracted from what we want to do, okay? Now, what you've got to understand is that there are many reasons to procrastination. This is going to be one facet of it that is going to be relatable to a lot of you. And what I saw in my personal life was that, anytime I would sit down to do something, all of a sudden there would be better things to do, right? So it's difficult for me to focus on the things that I needed to focus on. So I started to wonder, why is this happening? Why can't I focus on the things that I know I need to do, but for some reason my hand keeps reaching for my phone. For some reason my hand keeps reaching for, my fingers just go straight to facebook.com. Why does that keep happening? And here's when I started to realize it, first of all. What I saw was that when I was in college, I would start to do homework and try to study. And, the goal was to obviously get better grades and do well in school. But for some reason, I just couldn't stay off my phone. I would keep my phone airplane mode in the drawer, but I would still find myself taking it out and, wanting to check it, right? So this goes to really show that we're being wired right now by everything around us for a short-term gratification, okay? This is what I want you to remember. There's a short-term versus a long-term gratification. What do I mean by that? If you look at successful people who become successful in terms of business, let's say, they're naturally wired for a longer-term gratification. They understand Rome wasn't built in a day, so they're willing to put in the work year after year until it does happen. Even if you look at yogis, they're on this search to enlightenment, to finding the ultimate truth, and they will spend 10 years in the Himalayas in the cold just for a little, drop of enlightenment, right? So this goes to show that they're all wired for longer term gratification. But what's happening right now is we look for this quick fix all the time. When you have a headache, you're looking for the painkiller. When you have pain, you want to quickly get rid of that pain. So we can't really stay with whatever we're wanting to do because we're naturally being wired every single day for shorter term gratification. Everything is moving to quicker, faster, bigger, larger. Okay, so what you've got to understand is that there is short-term versus long-term gratification, and successful people are wired for longer-term gratification, and unsuccessful people stay unsuccessful because they're wired for shorter-term pleasures. Okay, so that also again brings me to the concept of short-term and long-term pleasures. Okay, gratification and pleasures, we can use that synonymously. So there are the lower pleasures of life and then the higher pleasures of life. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate this for you with a graph. If you look at the things that will give you a short-term reward, they're usually the lower pleasures of life. Okay, and what that looks like is essentially this. You get like a quick spike, but then it goes down just as quickly as you had it, right? That's going to be the shorter term pleasure in terms of doing drugs, in terms of having stimulants. There's always a price to pay, okay? If you start to do these things, let's say you even drink coffee, there's a price to pay in terms of having this dopamine crash, right? There's a price to pay in terms of you damaging your nervous system. If you keep drinking coffee over time, you're going to become dependent on it. I used to be that way, and I saw that this was like completely harming me, even drinking coffee 2 days a week, so I decided to completely quit. Now my only source of caffeine, let's say, is tea, drinking green tea, which has trace amounts of it. So Now, to really make sense of this, what longer term pleasure looks like is essentially this. There's a slow build-up to it, right? But it's more sustainable over time. What sort of activities give you a short-term pleasure and what gives you a long-term pleasure? Here's what it is. First of all, if you look at short-term pleasures like doing drugs, like watching TV and watching a show versus reading a book, right? Let's say this is watching Netflix and this is reading a book. Why do I say this? Well, it takes you around 30 minutes to an hour to get to the meat of the book. But when you do get to the meat of the book, it's so interesting and intriguing, or it gives you some skills that you can use later on in your life. Just like building a business, when you start off, let's say even in my coaching business, when I started off, people are just looking to get that first quick win. They're just looking to get that first client. And that's completely natural. But looking to get that first client isn't a sustainable strategy, because a business is built on cultivating sort of an audience, cultivating prospective customers in a group, in an email list, in a subscriber base, and then eventually they nurture into paying clients once they see the value, once they see that you're the authority, right? So this brings me to the concept of hunting versus farming. If you look at that, the shorter term pleasure is hunting immediately gives you your food, right? You immediately get the food from hunting, but you can't sustain and scale hunting up. But agriculture and farming is what helped mankind move forward, right? So in this case, hunting would be like going out there, getting your first client, and farming would be cultivating a subscriber base and an audience and nurturing it over time, right? So farming is the thing that's scalable, that actually helped mankind move forward. So farming would give you sort of like a reward that's on a larger scale and it compounds on itself, okay? So this is the thing that will compound on itself. This is the thing that is not scalable, and it's just, a one-time quick win. So this is why businesses are largely focused on longer-term gratification rather than short-term investment strategies. So even if you look at people like Jeff Bezos, okay? Successful people, they're all wired for long-term gratification. If you look at Jeff Bezos, something interesting I read was he was making a 10,000-year clock. And why he was doing that was his investment strategy is based solely around long-term rewards, okay? Even in the letters to shareholders that he doesn't talk about any short-term investing strategies. And when he advises investors to invest in the Amazon stock, he says, look, if you're looking for a short-term win, Amazon isn't the right stock for you, okay? If you're looking for a long-term, looking to invest into a company that will give you a longer-term reward on your investment, then Amazon is the company for you. And he does that by investing in, I suppose, making all these mistakes that he did with all the experiments that he does, which actually eventually led to him discovering Amazon Web Services, making Amazon Prime, and having that Kindle, right? So all of these came about as a result of the successful failures that he had. But all of those failures came about because he invested in a long-term investment strategy. So to symbolize that, he built a 10,000-year clock, which basically ticks once every year. And every 10,000 years, it's going to chime, okay? So really that goes to show that all these successful people, the more you're wired for a longer term gratification and you don't need anything in the shorter term, the more successful you're going to be. This brings me to the absolute key, which is the concept of non-neediness. In an interaction, right, the person who's the least needy is always going to control the frame of that interaction. The entity that is the least needy and needs something is always going to direct that interaction. So to give you an example of that, if you have a celebrity and a fan, right? The fan needs something from the celebrity. The celebrity didn't even know this fan existed until they met this person, right? So you can tell the clear dynamic of this conversation just by looking at how the interaction's going. The fan is really needy for the attention from the celebrity and the celebrity is not. So the celebrity can basically play the fan like a puppet on a string, right? But obviously most celebrities don't do so because that's why they're celebrities. So in that sense, the entity or the person that's the least needy for a shorter term gratification and is wired for a longer term gratification, doesn't need anything right now, is always going to prevail, is always going to be successful, okay? This also brings me to the concept of non-attachment, right? Non-neediness, non-attachment, they're synonymous. You don't need anything. You're making these decisions based on a longer term reward that you're going to receive. So how does this tie in with procrastination, right? Anytime you wire yourself with short-term reward activities, you're looking at your phone, getting that dopamine spike from your notifications, doing stimulants, you're immediately gonna wire your brain to seek the next reward, the next thing, the next thing. This is why so many business people jump from one business opportunity to the next and look for the next shiny object, and they can't stick to one thing, okay? Doing this is like a short-term pleasure activity is like masturbating. A longer-term reward activity is like meditating, because meditation doesn't give you an instant spike and an instant high, but rather it slowly builds up over time as you learn how to nurture and cultivate your own internal state. You can feel just as high meditating as you do having sex. Like, it's definitely true, but it just, you can last it longer and it doesn't feel the same because, it's just, the orgasm is just an instantaneous moment, just a little spike, and it goes away, right? So just like that, all of these successful business people and a non-successful business person, the difference between them is that they can stick to it, okay? They have this perseverance because they are looking at the bigger picture of what it looks like longer term. And that's why we see so many people in the Reality Mastery Program. They've tried the different business opportunities. They've tried to transition out of their professional careers, right? But the biggest dopamine spike that they've been getting is the bi-weekly paycheck they receive. But in your business, when you don't see the bi-weekly paycheck and you're not making any money, you're going to be quick to jump after a month of it, right? So there's no perseverance, there's no persistence in it, amongst a lot of other things. So now I want to share with you the 3 keys that's going to make you really apply this in your life and to really make this effective as a sustainable strategy rather than a quick video that you even just watched. So number 1 you've got to understand is that you want to cultivate a lifestyle of low dopamine. What do I mean by this? Having sort of a sustainable lifestyle is like just not having a lot of stimulants on a daily basis. And this is going to greatly improve your sleep even. When I stopped drinking coffee, I started sleeping better. I needed less. I started to show up better on the tasks that I needed to do. I could sit down to read a book without my mind going all over the place and me getting jittery, right? If I drank a cup of coffee now, I'd probably go through the roof because, my dopamine levels have been restored. Number 2, sugar. This is a big one, and this is the silent killer people miss. Sugar literally makes you forget a lot of things. I was becoming really forgetful, and again, it was sort of the same effect as stimulants because you get that dopamine spike from sugar as well. Pornography and excessive masturbation, like looking at that shorter term reward. Pornography does something crazy to your brain. It gives you that spike and that spike and that spike and that spike the more you watch it. And the less likely you are to actually focus on work and the longer term gratifying activities that you need to do to help your business and your life move forward. And finally, social media. This is the silent killer. This is just as deadly as porn, sugar, and stimulants. But people, it's deadlier because we just don't understand that it is deadly. Okay, this is the silent killer, if you will. The more you check social media, the more you check your notifications, especially doing it first thing in the day when you reach for your phone right after you wake up. What it does to your brain is similar to taking a hit of cocaine. When you check your notifications and you get that high, it's the same thing. I remember the deadliest thing that it did to me was I would just jump from one app to the next. I would go from YouTube to Gmail, and from Gmail to Facebook, Facebook to Instagram, Instagram to Snapchat, and then back again. I would just keep doing that for an hour, just trying to scroll through my feed to find that one thing that gives me that high. Right? It's absolutely insane how it does this. So to really cultivate a sustainable lifestyle with that, I completely deleted Instagram off my phone. Okay, that's what you want to do. Just decrease your phone time, your screen time entirely. Ideally, you want to keep your screen time to around 40 minutes max per day. No more than that. And you can check that through your Android phone in settings or iPhone as well in the settings. So no more than 40 minutes per day. And if you need to check something for your business, let's say, do it on your computer during work hours. After work hours, no phone. When you work, you work. When you rest, you rest. Okay? This is number 1. This is probably one of the most important things to do. Cultivate a lifestyle of low dopamine. And really something that's going to help you do that is setting your environment for a low activation energy so that there's no relapse. Okay? What do I mean by this? Well, activation energy, we're going to define this as the minimum energy required for you to relapse. Okay? So this is the minimum energy required for you to relapse. We want to increase the activation energy so it requires us more energy to relapse. Okay? So to demonstrate this in a graph, let's say this is your current activation energy to relapse, right? AE1. AE2 would be higher than AE1. Right? So this purple graph is higher than the black one. And what AE2 symbolizes is basically like, let's say AE1 is you having Instagram on your phone. AE2 is deleting the Instagram app off your phone. And the only way for you to go to Instagram is to type instagram.com on your computer and actually log in, right? So AE2 massively decreases how much Instagram you're going to be using, because now it takes you more energy to access the app. Okay? So you want to set your environment up for higher activation energy. How do you do that? Again, deleting all those apps from your phone that would distract you. You know, stopping any compulsive activities and stopping you getting triggered into relapsing. If you go into Instagram, you see a picture of a scandalous girl, then you're going to go into porn sites. It's going to take you from one thing, it's going to trigger you into going into that, right? That's the loophole that you go through, the black hole that you go through into relapse. And then another big thing is getting rid of all junk food and sugar and not keeping any sort of desserts at home, right? So then you just don't have the choice. You have fruits, you want to have dessert, you can have fruit. This was a big lifestyle change that was key for me as well in terms of getting better sleep. If you stop eating sugar at nighttime, you'll see your quality of sleep just goes up massively, right? Yeah, the big thing for me was deleting all the apps from my phone. Push notifications, biggest killer. Getting rid of push notifications as well. That's also activation energy for you to relapse. If you look at an email that's come up, okay, even if it's from a client, even if it's from your boss, even if it's from work, you're going to keep thinking about it even if you don't intend to respond to it now. So why not just turn off the push notifications and actually check your notifications when you consciously choose to do so, okay? So what's the element that's missing in all of this is consciousness. You unconsciously relapse. If you choose to do it, that's a completely different matter, right? If you choose to have sex with your partner, that's a completely different matter. If you choose to check your social media, check your email, it's a completely different matter. But when it's unconscious, then it starts to control you and it starts to run your life, okay? So that's number 2, increasing activation energy, not low activation energy, high activation energy, okay? Number 3, this is also a huge one, and this is just spending more time in non-doingness, okay? This is a Tao concept. If you read the Tao Te Ching, there's this concept of non-doingness. He who does the least really starts to control the most, right? So again, this goes to the paradigm of having, doing, and being. When you do less, you're naturally being more. Learn to just be. Learn to just sit and do nothing. Like if I have an hour between calls or at work, I'll just try to do nothing. I'll just sit there and do nothing. I'll just sit outside and watch nature. Because if you just sit here quietly and you learn to observe things around you, you're going to learn a lot more than that quick hour of reading a book. Just start doing nothing. I'm promising you your quality of life will just go through the roof. Like every single thing that you do will gain such a great vibrancy when you learn to do nothing. Okay? And with that, I conclude this video. I hope this was helpful. Let's recap this really quick. What we talked about was getting focus, eliminating procrastination. And the best way to do that is to cultivate a lifestyle where you're no longer needy to a shorter term high, okay? And number 1 is we talked about the differences between the gratification, the short-term versus long-term gratification, why successful people are wired for a longer-term gratification. And in order for you to be successful, you've got to be wired for longer-term gratification. I mean, what's crazy is that I saw Gary Vee's TikTok and it just drove me nuts. Like, He says his morning routine is he wakes up and he checks his email to see if he gets anything panicky or alarming. I'm sure he's driving himself nuts. Like, how can you live like that? You know? So I'm not sure that's a sustainable way to go, but from my personal experience, from what I've seen other successful entrepreneurs do, you gotta start becoming proactive and not reactive to all your social media. Even if you have a social media based business, okay? It's completely possible to do so. And it's a complete limiting belief that you've got to be on your phone 24/7. That's just going to ruin you, okay? So understand that right now that most professionals are unable to start their businesses and they procrastinate on it because they're wired for the weekly paycheck. They're getting the paycheck after paycheck, and when in your business the income doesn't come, it doesn't make sense for you to put in the work. So you are wired for that short-term gratification, getting your bi-weekly paychecks. But obviously when you start off a business, you're not going to get paid bi-weekly, right? So it's going to take a little bit of time to cultivate that, nurture it, and build it. But when you do build it, you can get it to 100K, 200K, 300K months. Turn your annual income into your monthly income. Turn your monthly income into your daily income, right? So with that, what you got to understand is that there are two different types of pleasures, the lower pleasures of life and the higher pleasures of life, which correspond to the instant gratification versus the longer term delayed gratification. Okay, and this is sort of like a spike when you watch Netflix or you watch something, you get some high off something, you take a stimulant, you masturbate, orgasm, that gives you an instant high. But then activities that will give you a longer term gratification actually take a little bit of time to build up, but you can sustain it over time. When you sacrifice the shorter term gratifications and pleasure to build up your business gives you money over time, which you can use to sustain that pleasure, right? It's the payoff that you make, okay? Because if you don't sacrifice for your dreams, then your dreams become the sacrifice, okay? That's understanding this graph. And finally, understand that the key concept is non-neediness. People who are wired for longer term gratification need less right now. That's why they're able to control and become proactive in their lives and in their businesses, okay? And the three keys that we talked about are, number one, cultivating a lifestyle of low dopamine. Don't do a dopamine detox right now and forget all about it. Like, if you do meditation 5 minutes a day and have 23 hours and 55 minutes a day of chaos, it's not going to do you any good. So instead, learn to cultivate a whole lifestyle that's based around you, not stimulating yourself too much, okay? And this is learning to eliminate all of these stimulants, sugar, pornography, social media. Really, if you follow a yogic path of positive pranic substances and foods, these two will be it. Eliminating mostly sugar and stimulants. Stimulants are naturally negative pranic. And what that means is it destroys life. It's life destructive because it makes you less sensitive to life. Okay? Number two, setting your environments at high activation energy so that there's a lesser chance of you relapsing. If the nearest fast food store is 5-minute walk from you versus the nearest fast food store being 1,000 miles from you, you're less likely to drive 1,000 miles just to get your fix of McDonald's, right? And number three, spend more time in non-doingness. It's simple, just learn to sit around and do nothing. Learn to just be in non-doingness. It's more difficult to be in non-doingness, to be doing something, right? Because it's just such a difficult concept nowadays to be idle. So try that and see how it goes. And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. Also, I'm super excited to announce, as I mentioned before, that a couple of spots have opened up for the consult. If you're interested to really find out about the program, how we can work together to take your life to the next level, make sure you click on the link in the description below. Who we work with are as follows. First of all, professionals who are looking to really transition out into entrepreneurship or even take their professional careers to the next level, but they find that they don't have a skill, tactical, or business model problem, but rather it's an internal problem that's preventing it from sticking, right? They've tried the different business opportunities, and again, they keep jumping from one opportunity to the next. That sounds like you, click on the link. Also, we work with those who are entrepreneurs who are looking to take their income and their revenues to the next level in their businesses. People who have dropshipping businesses, Amazon FBA businesses, people who have coaching businesses as well, and even traders. And what they see is that, they're maybe doing well, they have all the tactics, strategies, coaches, masterminds, but none of it sticks, right? None of it really sticks, and on paper they should be making much more money. But again, it's not an external problem, but an internal ceiling that's keeping them stuck here. That sounds like you. Please make sure you take advantage of this opportunity. Let's see how we can help and take you to the next level, okay? And also the free Facebook group is open for you to take advantage of. The link for that is in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Peace.